This is our first live and in-person inspiration session for 2025, specially created for Elevate by talent leadership coach Zoe Tuffs from Times 10 Coaching, along with people and culture strategy consultant Nic Neal, ensuring that our community receives the most valuable and impactful tools, resources, and inspiration. In this talk, Zoe and Nic will be showing you how to unlock your confidence code, helping to decode and own the confidence that fuels your career. The presentation referred to in this session can be downloaded from the episode show notes. This podcast was recorded at Protein Studios in Shoreditch with a live audience.
So welcome everybody, it's wonderful to be here. Nic and I have the distinct privilege of opening up the first inspiration session of 2025. That privilege is not lost on us, and we're really looking forward to helping you unlock your confidence code this evening. We're going to dive straight in, aren't we, Nic?
We are. So I want you all to just close your eyes. We're not going to do anything weird, I promise you.
I'm going to be checking. Everyone's got their eyes shut.
Close your eyes. And I want you to put your hand up if you've ever felt quite afraid to share an idea or a thought for fear of it being shot down.
Oh, can we have hands right up? For people on the podcast, there's quite a few hands up.
And I want you to keep your hand up if you feel like you've ever downplayed your talents or abilities when talking to somebody else about yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I want you to keep your... Emma, do not open your eyes. I want you to keep your hand up if you feel like you've ever compared yourself to somebody else and drawn your own conclusion.
Oh yes, there were some big hands going off at that moment.
Short. Okay, now I want you to open your eyes and just take a quick look around. I'd say it's pretty much 99.9% of the room with hands up. That is what we call the confidence gap, and that is exactly what we are trying to address today. It is the gap that is preventing us from accessing our very best opportunities, connections, fulfilling careers and lives, and that is absolutely what we want to talk about today. So we are going to dive straight in now that you know everything that we're planning. Come and take a seat. Don't worry, it's not awkward, but you're going to have to sit at the front. So let us just tackle the quick rules of engagement. If you are new to the inspiration sessions, this one's for you. So any Elevate event is always a very safe space. So please feel free to share anything that you want to. That said, as you have been reminded today, this is being recorded. So therefore, please be mindful that you don't share any personally identifiable information or any general information you don't want the world to hear, because the podcast is listened to by millions, so just be mindful of that. Secondly, if you know anything about me and Zoe, you'll know that we love a good open conversation, a good chat, and actually we really believe this is where we do our very best learning from each other, sharing our experiences. So we ask you kindly today to actively participate, everything that you feel comfortable to do so. We will be doing the same, but we really do love to hear your stories, and there are usually so many of them. Lastly, we are only going to be able to scratch the surface of the topic of confidence today, and we have just got really quite obsessed with it while preparing this presentation. But of course, if you feel that this has piqued your interest and you want to know a little bit more or want to delve deeper, come and talk to us. We're really keen to ensure that we curate the inspiration sessions based on the content that you want to hear more of. So please do let us know about that. I'm going to throw the disclaimer in here. We are going to talk about confidence today. I'm not a psychologist. I don't think you are either. Neither am I a neuroscientist or any other kind of medical professional. Please just take it that any neuroscience-backed information has been got from the internet. I do believe it to be true.
ChatGPT.
But just a small little disclaimer. What we will be sharing today is our own stories, our own battle scars, our own war wounds that we feel have helped us shape more confident careers than if we hadn't adopted some of those different things. So I hope you are all ready for a fun ride.
So confidence is a bit of a whopper of a topic. And one of the reasons that we wanted to bring it to you today is it's super galvanizing, because when it comes to confidence, we all have skin in the game. It's something that we all want and need to be able to progress in our careers. So whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out in your career, confidence is a really important skill to master. And let's face it, this crazy roller coaster ride that we ride in the world of live events is definitely not for the faint-hearted. Some days you're going to feel like you're absolutely crushing it, and other days you're going to be on your knees. I think I've lost count of the times I've been on site and run to the ladies' loo to have a good cry. I don't know if anyone else has ever been there. So confidence is a really important skill to master, and we're going to dig around with it today, and hopefully you're going to share and participate in that. We're going to cover these 3 areas. We're going to define what confidence is and what it isn't. We're going to identify some myths and some confidence killers and blockers that are getting in our way. And then we're going to give you 3 really actionable tools that will help you build your confidence code. So that's how we are approaching it this evening. Our aim is for every single one of you to leave the Protein Studios tonight feeling a little bit braver, a little bit bolder, and with a little bit more confidence. So hopefully, that's what we'll achieve. Let's see what we uncover together. As Max said, this session has all been inspired by you, so thank you for everyone that completed the registration form, the survey. Thank you for taking the time, because this really gives us a really nice picture of where we all are when it comes to confidence. Now, we had over 600 responses from this year's cohort. That's a lot of people, and some really key themes emerged. So first up, 88% of us feel imposter syndrome at work, either sometimes or often. Was there anyone here in that 12% that never feels it? You are, love it. So essentially 9 out of 10 of us feel imposter syndrome sometimes at work. The statistic at the top makes me quite sad, that half of our mentees feel unconfident about their future in events. Now, as a collective, we really need to change this, because if you think about the crazy talent that we have, especially in this mentee cohort, it's pretty sad that almost half of those mentees feel unconfident about their future in events. 45% of the entire cohort can't do their job properly due to a lack of mentoring. That's why we're here. And finally, 85% of us feel out of depth at work. Again, a really, really high number. Nic?
I think some of those statistics are quite concerning. Weirdly, I think being in people experience, as I know a few of us are in the room, I quite like the fact that we can do something about this. There are so many actionable tools that we can actually introduce that will bring these numbers down. And if we are talking about these numbers next year, I will feel like we've not done our job properly. So I think there's a big challenge, but also a really big opportunity as well. So I want to start with you guys, if that's okay. I'm not going to ask you to close your eyes again, but I am going to ask you to kind of dig deep and have a think about an experience or a scenario where you feel that you have been challenged by a lack of confidence. It might be a scenario that was a one-off. It might be in a big presentation you're preparing for. It might be a recurring situation that you often find yourself kind of lacking the self-confidence that you really want to possess. I want you to have a think about that example, and then I want you to turn to the person on your left or right, you can choose, say hi, introduce yourself, see what you have for breakfast, and then I would love for you to open up that example. Now, as we go through the presentation today, we're going to draw upon this example, so please make sure it's a good one, because we want to make sure that we are giving you some actionable tools to address that one in the first place. So we're going to just give you a couple of minutes just to say hi and talk about one of those challenges that really makes you feel a lack of confidence.
Off you go.
There's no background music, sadly, so. One of the things that I absolutely love about doing Elevate events is whenever we ask you to go off and start talking about like your feelings, you just go and do it straight away. And there's loads of gesticulation and you're really passionate about it, which is great. How was that? Exposing? Okay. Does anybody feel super brave? Yes. Please share. Wait, you have to wait for the mic and then please share.
Hi.
Hello.
I was just explaining to Georgia. For me, it was coming back after having babies. I don't know how many mums are in the room.
There was a big audible yes.
But I remember like being as crazy as I can't remember my password. Oh. And that, you know, just the whole thing, just coming back the juggle, got mum brain, sleep deprivation, trauma brain in my case, you know, had PTSD after the birth of my son. So yeah, it was just massive coming back. And you were like a businesswoman before that, and then you come back as a mum. So for me, that was been my biggest challenge of 13 years in business.
I didn't catch your name, sorry.
Faye.
You're just giving me goosebumps. Yeah, that's a really common challenge.
I would genuinely love to just do a whole session on
let's come back to
work
that one.
after being a parent. 100%. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's a tough juggle. 100%. I think a lot of people in this room are feeling that when you said it. So thank you for sharing that. Does anybody else feel like putting theirs on the table? Yeah.
I think we had similar-ish challenges. And for me, it was when you need to challenge a senior stakeholder or your CEO when they've asked you to do something and you've done it and they've said, well, who told you to do that? It wasn't me. And it's kind of knowing how to challenge someone who is, above you, being tactful and, but also persuasive as well.
Definitely feel like I've got some experience of that as well. It's really hard to get that balance right and to walk that tightrope of, I want to really believe in myself right now, but I also don't want to get sacked. And it's just like difficult to balance. Thanks.
How many times have you walked to work? I'm like, I'm going to do it today. And then you don't do it.
No. Cancel everything. Should we take one more? Anybody?
So one of the challenges that I faced was I had a bit of a micromanager in a previous role, and depending on what way the wind blew would depend on kind of what the answer would be to a question. And I went into that role feeling very confident of myself and sure of myself. And over the 17 months that I worked there, it just kind of chipped away at my confidence. I would second guess everything I was doing, doubt anything I was doing. And I kind of left that role feeling a bit like a newbie because she'd kind of made me question all of the decisions I'd make. And I think that's definitely still impacted me into my role now, where I'm kind of second guessing everything I'm doing to make sure I get it right, and kind of lack that confidence and self-belief that I know what I'm doing and I'm capable of doing it.
Did you ever say anything?
No. The whole team knew, but no one dared kind of bring it up. There was no confidence there to do that.
Psychological safety, that's another session we could do. It's important there, great self-awareness, that you identified that micromanagement chips away at your confidence, and that's a big part of your criteria.
Well, hopefully, throughout the course of today's session, we might just be able to share a couple of tools that might just make a positive impact. We're not saying that it will turn absolutely everybody into gloriously confident people instantly, but hopefully will make a meaningful difference. So let's get into it.
So we're going to start with this question. What does the word confidence mean to you? Quick fire, anyone want to share what it is? What does confidence mean?
Self-belief.
Self-belief.
Nice.
Anything else? Being on stage, that's a good answer. Ooh, love that one. Nice. Time for one more. Anyone else got a definition of confidence? Okay, I'm going to start with a little definition. The thing is, it's a bit of a slippery topic, confidence. When I ever ask this question when I'm coaching people, they always come up with a slightly different answer. So is it a feeling? Is it a skill? So I just want to give you a couple of definitions, because I think the concept of confidence and self-confidence, they sound the same, but they're actually quite different. So confidence is essentially a trust in your own abilities, qualities, and judgment. Confidence comes from the Latin word fidere, which means to trust, and that is a skill that we can build. For me, confidence is situational, so I trust in my ability to handle a specific situation, and I trust in my ability to be competent in a particular skill. So, for example, I know how to deliver a flawless event because I've done it many times. Self-confidence is different because it's more of a mindset, it's more of a belief system that you have about yourself. So self-confidence is owning your ability to adapt, learn, and navigate challenges regardless of the experience. So I really like to think of self-confidence as a bit more of an identifier, a bit more of a personality and belief system. So self-confidence is about your ability to figure things out as you go. It's not about having all of the answers. It's about saying to yourself, I'm willing to give it a go, and I don't have the answer yet, but I trust in my ability to learn, I trust in my ability to adapt, and I trust in my ability to figure it out. And I think walking is the perfect analogy here. When we were babies, none of us were born with the ability to walk. We simply gave it a go. We took those first baby steps, we wobbled, we fell over, we got back up again, and basically we repeated that process until walking became second nature. So learning to walk was essentially our first experience of developing self-confidence. And I really love this quote from Brooke Castillo, who's a renowned life coach. She says that failure and discomfort is the currency for success. When you have self-confidence, you create success because you're willing to trust yourself to take risks and keep going regardless of the outcome. And I think the key part there is regardless of the outcome. I'm willing to try. You know you will fall, but you trust that ultimately you will be okay. And building the sense of self-confidence comes with discomfort. I know that I can get on this stage today and I can pretty much handle any emotion that will come my way. I will go to bed tonight and catastrophize about how awful I was, but I know that that will be a moment, it will be an emotion that I feel, and I know that moment will pass. So it's really important that we can tap into that ability to kind of feel the fear and do it anyway.
I hope you don't feel that way when you go home tonight.
Always.
Please text me.
Always.
One framework that I wanted to share with you today is this one here. Now, I think a lot of us can often mistake confidence being in our comfort zone. And to a certain extent, confidence can live in our comfort zone, but it's not ever going to grow unless we step out of that. Now, we can step as far as the panic zone, which is a place that we don't really want to be. This is a place filled with overwhelm. It's filled with stress. Having worked in the events industry for some time, I feel like I've lived here for a long period of time. I'm sure many of you do as well, and that's definitely not where we want to be. We want to try and find this sweet spot in the middle, which is our stretch zone. It's that idea of dipping our toe into the water in a space that feels that it is challenging, but not so challenging that it's going to put us in a heightened state of stress. Now, one person that talks about this really well is a clinical psychologist called Dr. Julie Smith, who you may have come across before. She kind of really burst onto the scene back in the pandemic because she used TikTok as a vehicle to start talking about therapy techniques and really breaking them down into nice bite-sized chunks. If you don't follow her, I would really recommend that you do, particularly if you have any kind of interest in behavioral psychology, the way that we humans interact, or if you've ever had any form of anxiety or depression. We've got a short little video where she kind of brings this framework to life a little bit more.
If you want to build your confidence, here's something people learn in therapy that can be life-changing. Now, everyone has a comfort zone, right? Those situations that feel easy and safe, and everyone thinks that everything outside of that comfort zone is overwhelming and frightening. Let's call that the panic zone. What if I told you that there's a third zone, the stretch zone? Now, these are all the things that feel like a challenge, but doable with some effort. And when you spend time in that stretch zone, you start doing all those small things that challenge you, what happens is the comfort zone starts to expand. So you can build your confidence without ever having to step into your panic zone. You don't have to overwhelm yourself, but you do have to challenge yourself every day in that stretch zone over and over again. It takes courage, but the more time you spend there, the more confident you become.
So one of the things that we want to start talking about today is how we can go from being in that comfort zone and really step out into that stretch zone. How can we identify the experiences that we want to lean into where we still feel suitably safe, but we also feel like we've started to push ourselves a little bit further? And we're going to share a few tools later on that allows us to do just that.
The thing is, confidence is not an inherent talent. It's a currency that has to be earned, and I like to think of it as a confidence piggy bank. We all have a different confidence piggy bank, and certain situations will give you the opportunity to put coins in the piggy bank or take coins away, and that will look different for every person. What we want is, like Nic said, that sweet spot of things that are in our stretch zone, the odd thing that's in our panic zone, but we want things that are going to build our confidence. It's absolutely okay that we're taking coins away, but if we make it that we are overstretching ourselves, we're doing more harm than good. And I've seen a lot of bad managers throw their people into really challenging situations without proper support. And their intention is that they're building their confidence, and in fact, they're doing the opposite. So what you want is to have your confidence coins in the black, not in the red. And it's really important that you take charge of that, because your line managers are not psychics. It's really important that you are in control of the things that will build that confidence and take that confidence away. So we've got another provocation for you to think about. How would your career be different if you had unshakable confidence? Now, Nic, I'm going to throw it over to you first. What would your career, have you ever pondered this question in your career?
I have. I'm going to pretend I didn't see this question coming at all. But a number of years ago, I definitely reached that kind of career crossroads that many of us reach after we've been in a position that's maybe reflective of a comfort zone for a little bit too long, where you feel like you're not necessarily growing. You're enjoying yourself, and it's perfectly fine, but you're possibly not meeting your full potential. But deviating from that career that I was in meant retraining. It meant kind of throwing myself into a completely new area. Previously, I had a very traditional production background, was an event producer, was the head of events, and just kind of worked my way up the ladder that way. And actually, I got really drawn, for some bizarre reason, to the world of HR, which those of you in the room that have that career path will wonder why the hell I decided to do that. But I was really, really drawn to it, and for a long time, and for too long probably, convinced myself that because I had to retrain and because it was going to be different, that it wouldn't be something that I should go and take on. Thankfully, I did have a really good mentor at the time who would consistently evidence to me all the reasons why I had the skill set and the experiences that would actually be really, really useful for a career in that direction. And I ended up taking the plunge. And I'm pleased to say that I've now enjoyed the last 2 years as a people and culture consultant. I've just completed my advanced diploma in strategic people management, which was grueling, but I'm pleased I got to the end of it. And I'm now in a career path that I feel genuinely fulfilled, suitably challenged by, and yeah, it was a bit of a scary path, but I definitely got there. So yes, I've definitely had that crossroad moment, and it's kind of thankfully turned out for the better.
I think that deserves a little round of applause.
Thank you.
So, throwing it back to you. Now, this is a bit of a challenging question to access because people shudder at the thought of unshakable confidence. But I want you to go there. I want you to discuss with that complete stranger next to you, possibly, how your career would be different if you had unshakable confidence. What would it look like? Off you go. Okay, let's bring it back. Shushing people. I'm really confident now. I'm shushing you. Okay, how did that conversation go? Is anyone feeling brave enough to share how their career would be different? Yes. I'm going to go to the back first. I'll come back to you.
So I would be an actress. So I trained as an actress. Yeah. And then during my third year, my dad got really poorly, and I decided, to be honest, I mean, it's a world of rejection. It's like you build yourself up and then you get knocked down like every single day, several times a day. And I was like, I just don't have the energy to do that or the confidence to do that. But if I had unshakable confidence, I'd be on the West End, baby.
And we'd all be cheering you on.
We might need some entertainment in the bar afterwards, so we'll be coming back to you. Were you prepared to share? Yeah, perfect.
I would have went freelance sooner. I was really similar to Zoe, that I had a micromanager in my last role, and I was actually one of the people last year who said that they didn't know if their future was in events, and I was quite messy, and it just like really messed with my headspace, and it was through my mentor that I was able to kind of get down that path, and he really helped me like build up my confidence to take that leap, because I was just like, oh well, I'm not good enough, and he was like, no, come on now. So yeah, it was really helpful. And yeah, I'm like really happy being in the freelance space now. So yeah, I'm quite happy with how it's led to, but I would have done it sooner.
So having that safe space to be really honest with yourself was really helpful in that moment.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, time for one more. Anyone want to share? We can move on.
Oh, here we go. In the back.
We were sort of reflecting on that through our career, we've we've both had periods where we've been unconfident and hadn't taken opportunities.
Yeah.
And actually, it's the other opportunities that have sometimes led us in the right direction. And it's having that confidence that has held you back. When you don't make the decision because you're confident, actually there can be some real gems that come out of that. And it's really appreciating where you are and realizing that actually there are other things that come out through that. That's been really good.
Love that.
So glass half full. Need some of that in my life.
I think I can put that back for a sec. Brilliant. Well, thanks for sharing. Quite a difficult question to access, but it's really important that we ask ourselves some of those deeper questions.
Yeah, because I think those rivers of thinking, and if you haven't attended one of Matt Bolton-Alarcón's sessions, you may not have heard that phrase before, but it's representative of those like little kind of negative habits or those little kind of fixed mindset kind of thoughts that we often have that can often get in our way. And I think when it comes to confidence, there's quite a few of them that exist that sometimes we need to kind of push through. And we want to talk about a couple of those now. So one that really comes up for me is that confident people just tend to be born that way. We all know that person that seems to walk in a room and they've got the great big smile and everything's absolutely great, and you think they were just born that way and I couldn't possibly access that level of confidence. And yet, really, what we do know deep down is that confidence is very much based on that level of repetition and practice. We do know that this is a muscle that we can flex. It is not something you either have or you don't, which is great because it means that we are all completely capable of it if we can just adjust and adapt to that growth mindset that is needed for unshakable confidence. Our next one.
The second myth is confident people are fearless. And I think we've already gone some way to dispelling that myth, because confidence acknowledges fear and pushes it through. It's that idea of feel the fear and do it anyway. I'm just going to share a quick story here. This is me on a train in 2015. And there's this story. I was on a train in 2015 and I'd had quite a long career break after having my 2 young sons. And a friend called me up and she said, Zoe, I'm in a bit of a tight spot. Can you come and help me produce this small event at Google? And I was like, yeah, right. And she was like, I really need help. So she talked me into it. The night before, there were tears. I said to my husband, what if I can't turn the computer on? And he was like, Zoe, what's the worst that can happen? You just get asked to leave Google, that's fine. So the next day, the next trauma was what I look like. I was so scared about looking so mumsy. I had no idea what people at Google dressed like. So there we have it. I think you can see that we had a puppy at the time. It had chewed one of my shoes, so I was still kind of making up my mind about that. But I got on the train, I went to Google, walked in, found my way through security. I did manage to put the computer on, sat down at this wonderful desk, slide, all the snacks you can wish for. And my friend said to me, right, I want you to work into a deck. And I was like, okay. So I ran to the loo, text my husband. She's asked me to sort out a deck. I don't know what a deck is. He's like, Zoe, it's a PowerPoint. You've got this. So off I went. It was Google Slides, figured that out. The event went well. The sky didn't fall in, despite my best attempts to catastrophize and distort all of these fears. And it led to a 4-year opportunity at Wonder London. Any Wonder Londoners here? You can see Danielle. Anyone else? But that opportunity led to me taking the role as growth and strategy partner at Wonder, which was way beyond my wildest dreams when I'd stepped on that train. And within 4 years, we were producing the biggest Google event in EMEA. It was worth millions of pounds. And as a team, we didn't necessarily have the right to think that we could produce an event like that. We just so happened to keep doing great events for Google. And we threw our hat in the ring for the pitch, not thinking that we would win it. We actually bloody won it. And off we went, and we produced an amazing event. And you can see us celebrating that. And it's actually really given me goosebumps again today because, you know, Ben Turner, the founder of Wonder, he used to have this saying that we haven't got all the answers, but we can figure it out together. And I found that super empowering. And it was just the most amazing environment and culture for me to be part of. And my career trajectory absolutely skyrocketed. So there's a good story of like feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I know there's probably lots of other parents who have gone through a similar. I can see a few nods in the audience. I'm looking at you, Tamara. that have experienced similar things. Because if I'd listened to all of that narrative in my mind, I wouldn't have been able to do that. I would have just been at Drusilla's pulling my hair out.
Your shoes are matching today.
They are. There we go. But I did leave my bag in the toilet earlier, didn't I? Because I was so stressed. There we go.
That didn't happen.
So the other myth that we want to bust is confidence comes before success. A lot of people are holding on to that sense of confidence before they dive in, and the fact is that courage comes before confidence. Confidence is the reward that you get from pushing yourself into your comfort zone. The feeling that you've got to really tap into is courage. Courage is an emotion, and you've got to get that sense of courage that will drive the behaviours that allow you to step into your comfort zone. Confidence is the reward. So if you're sitting back thinking, I'll just wait until I'm confident, you could be killing loads of time in your really valuable time in your career. So courage is the feeling that you want to really push into if you want to develop your confidence.
So we've really started to scratch the surface on all the things that are stopping us from feeling our most confident selves, but there are a couple of biggies that we haven't talked about today that I'm sure are on your minds, and we're going to tap into those now. First of all is that fear of failure that really gets in the way of us feeling like we can be our most confident selves. It's the avoidance of attempting something for fear that that negative outcome is going to come our way. It's that constant catastrophizing of what if I fall, what if I fail, what if I cock up, what if I do this wrong? And it can really break down our ability to move forward. That is followed by a big one for this industry and a really big one for the Elevate community. Every single year, we ask you about the challenges that you are facing. Imposter syndrome kind of floats right up to the top, and you saw it in those statistics before. This is bothering all of us, no matter if we're mentor, mentee, brand new in the industry, or been here for 20 years, it's affecting us all. It's that feeling of you are a fraud, that you shouldn't be there. It's that feeling that I don't belong here, and it's affecting far more of us than it should be. And one that I know I definitely struggle with is that feeling of being trapped by comparison. Now, social media is definitely playing a massive role here as well. And I've definitely been known to doom scroll and hate myself from Instagram. But it's that feeling of measuring our self-worth against others' perceived achievements. And that word perceived is a really important one because we never know the full story when we are looking through these kind of like tinted glasses. It's that feeling that people are more capable, that they are doing better, and we just don't know the full story. So we do want to tap into how we can try and push through some of these major confidence blockers. But before we do, I want you just to spend 2 minutes thinking about that example that you plucked out before, that example that either keeps recurring or has really bothered you and made you feel that you haven't been your most confident self. What were the reasons driving that lack of confidence? Is it a reason that's on this list here, one of the big three, or is it something else? Just take 2 minutes and we'll have a quick kind of roundup. Yeah. Okay. We are going to just do a quick poll then from your discussions. Hoping everyone can hear me. We're going to do a quick poll from that very lively discussion that took a while to warm up, but we got there eventually. So hands up if it was fear of failure that was your, yeah? Okay.
Second one, imposter syndrome. Yeah, quite a few people with their hands up. Finally, the comparison trap. Yes.
Okay, so we're all crippled by all of them, basically.
And then hands up if it was all three. Yeah, lots of people feeling all of the pain when it comes to pushing through.
And look, the fact of the matter is, these confidence blockers exist. They are very, very real, and it's not enough to just go, let's ignore them and let's pretend they don't exist, because they do, and they are ever present a lot of the time. But what we can do is start to really adjust our relationship with these confidence blockers and really think about how we can start to be aware of them, lean into them, and really importantly, reframe them. So I want to share a couple of ideas for reframing some of these big confidence blockers.
So fear of failure is massive. Our brain is doing our job when it's giving us that sense of fear. We have between 12 and 60,000 thoughts a day randomly, and 85% of them are negative. So our negativity bias is really kicking in when we're feeling that fear. So being able to reframe those thoughts. So few of our thoughts are facts, they're just thoughts. And we have the opportunity to reframe them. So the opportunity to view failures as feedback rather than judgments. When we mess up, it's just essentially a piece of data which tells us what to try harder in, the new direction to go in. So it's reframing the failure as feedback. Secondly, focus on effort rather than outcomes. We can be so grippy to the outcome that we forget about the effort and the passion and the energy that we're putting into situations and tasks. And finally, just normalize failure as a central part of growth. I think that's something we do struggle with in this industry because there's a lot at stake when we put live events on. And Nic and I work in a lot of teams where it's just not okay to fail or to screw things up, and that really holds people back from building their confidence because everything is micromanaged. There's a lot of control freaks in this industry, and it really kills people's confidence. So we need to create cultures where we can create that opportunity to mess up from time to time. Wonderful SJ. Any of the crew team here today? I think we've got a few. Massive shout out to SJ, who's just been promoted to CEO of Crew Live, so that's hot news. I don't know if you saw that on LinkedIn this week, but SJ did this wonderful podcast episode for us in our Just One Thing podcast, and in her wonderful letter that she wrote to her younger self, she said, "You are great at pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and this is where the growth comes. Try to maintain that confidence as you get older. Tap into that anything is possible frequency, and it will serve you well." Let's have a little round of applause for SJ. I know she's not here.
So let's look at reframing imposter syndrome because it sounds like it's something that's affecting so many of us. And actually, us reframing it and thinking about how we can use positive evidence, those like little micro moments that actually are working well to start building up that jar of positive thinking in our brains can be really, really helpful. And just by acknowledging the fact that everybody has knowledge gaps, this is something that I really struggled with kind of retraining in a slightly different field, is feeling like everybody had their shit together and I couldn't possibly know anything. And it's so refreshing when somebody says, yeah, I wouldn't know how to handle that either. Should we figure it out together? And I actually think we all have a bit of a responsibility to let our own guards down a little bit more than we do sometimes. We don't always have to have all of the answers in our back pocket, and actually that can really help us all grow professionally. And acknowledging the value that we do bring to the table. Again, this is something that I really struggled with retraining. And actually, as soon as I thought to myself that I had like 16 years of essentially running an agency to bring to this other field, it brought a string to my bow that actually others didn't necessarily have in their back pocket. And I was able to reframe what felt like a crippling sense of imposter syndrome, and all of a sudden used it as a real strength. And it can be really hard to do, but I think given that we are all mentors and mentees, we have a wonderful opportunity to hold some space for each other and actually start having these conversations and having these provocations that allow us to think a little bit more consistently in this way. And if we jump into reframing the comparison piece as well, when we track progress against our own selves rather than other people, it actually gives us a more sensible barometer by which to monitor progress and success. Again, these are conversations that we can so easily have with our mentors and mentees and start thinking about how we can improve upon ourselves. Journaling is another excellent way that we can start doing this and start writing things down so that we can monitor our own success. Learning from others' journeys rather than just purely comparing ourselves to other journeys, I think is another thing that we can all do a little bit more of than we're doing at the moment. I have definitely been one of those people that has looked on LinkedIn or Instagram and has sat there silently seething about how disappointed I am in myself. And actually, if I'd taken all of that energy and just messaged a person to say, I really love what you're doing, I think it's really impressive, would love to hear more about it, I think actually that would be putting energy in a far better direction than just internalizing and making myself feel like death about it. So let's be honest about the feelings that we all have and try and shift them in a slightly more positive direction. And we've got a lovely quote again from our Just One Thing series here.
I'm just going to add to that before we dive in. The comparison trap is something I really, really struggle with. And when I woke up this morning, I was full of anxiety. And the main anxiety was about my body size and my age. And, you know, my biggest fear was that you'd all be looking at me, comparing me to Nic, because she's slightly smaller than me and younger than me. And it's just crazy when you say it out loud, because hopefully you're not all sitting there thinking that. But I just want you to acknowledge how powerful these thoughts are, because if I'd laid in bed and let that become a truth, I would have just pulled the duvet over and I wouldn't be here. So, you know, the comparison trap is really, really powerful. So it's just something to be really mindful of and aware that those are just thoughts, they're not facts. Here's a quote.
Yes, the lovely Steve Sayer has got a lovely quote here, and it actually really landed with me. He said, worry less about what people think. It really doesn't matter much. And when we think about, I mean, hopefully we don't think about being on our deathbed all that often, but when you do, I severely doubt that the thoughts running through your brain at that point is, oh, well, I really wonder what that person thought of me, and I wonder what they think about this. What really matters is how you feel about you. Can you wake up in the morning, look yourself in the mirror and feel really happy about who you are? So actually, as putting the energy into that, as Steve said, that is exactly where the magic really happens. So I think very, very wise words from our Just One Thing podcasters.
So we've left you all hanging for long enough. We're going to dive into our practical ways that you can build your confidence code. We really want these, we really wanted when we put these together to feel really pragmatic, things that you can take into your work and your life as of tonight or tomorrow. So these are our three: the confidence building ladder, the inner critic versus internal coach, and finally your confidence criteria checklist. So Nic, you're going to talk to us about the confidence ladder.
So a lot of us find it quite easy to think of a goal that we're trying to aim for, but actually trying to get there can be incredibly difficult. And we talked before about that framework where we discussed that comfort zone, trying to edge into the stretch zone before getting into the panic zone. And this is one way in which we can start to get there. So we need to start articulating the goal and then thinking about the most vulnerable situation that kind of represents that. I'm going to do a practical example with you now, don't worry. And then we start to go through the stages of easier than that would be this. And then easier than that would be this. And it helps us start to map out a ladder or a journey for us to move ever so much closer to the goal that we're aiming for. So let's do an example. Let's say the goal is to be more confident in social situations. And actually, the most vulnerable moment you can think of that doesn't include naked speed dating would be attending a networking event all by yourself. I mean, attending a networking event on your own, I think is absolutely horrendous and terrifying. So that might be the most vulnerable situation you can think of, but one step easier than that might be attending that networking event with a bunch of friends or colleagues or people that you know. And actually, a step below that might be getting used to introducing yourself to somebody with that kind of elevator pitch. And one step easier than that might be working on that elevator pitch or that, introduction in front of the mirror or in your phone or something like that. And even easier than that might be listening to a podcast about successful networking techniques or good conversation starters. And what we start to do here is pull together a bit of a plan that edges us outside of the comfort zone without having to feel like we need to accomplish absolutely everything all at once. This is the thing that actually builds our confidence. And I think this is the kind of thing that we can all do on a scrap of paper. This doesn't need 25 hours of therapy or anything more serious than that. This is stuff that we can actually action quite immediately. And I'd love to see us just create more micro goals for ourselves rather than shoot for the stars and then get pissed off when we don't quite get there immediately.
It's a brilliant one to do with your mentor as well, just to have that safe space to kind of break it down.
The other technique that I want to share with you today is all about trying to quieten that inner critic. I think we all have different voices inside. Mine gets quite critical at times. I don't know who here loves a positive affirmation. We have some positive affirmation fans in the room. The I am resilient, I am brave, I am great. I plaster these all over my daughter's wall because I want her to be a strong, independent woman. Max, I'm sure you've got a couple of these in your bedroom wall. Wake up, Max.
I was going to say, Peter bought me one, and it was, can you remember what that was, the one that you bought me? But it was just this really compelling commentary piece that is just on a Post-it note. Someone slaps it on a wall in London, and it kind of hits you. So I then went and bought the deck of cards. He did 52 of these, and in my office at home, I've blown them up and made this fucking great montage of them.
There we go. We called it.
So I have this massive montage, and they're all just, and I've recently followed on Instagram, this bloke just gives notes to strangers that hits them at the right point of just saying, like, you're enough, or you know what, your average is someone else's success or something like this. And so it's just kind of little things like that every so often. And it's just to the top right of my screen behind. So every so often you drift. I drift a lot. And it kind of catches me every so often. So
come on then, Max, what's your favourite one? Yeah?
What's my favourite one? Bugger off, no, I can't remember.
I'll come back to you. We called it.
We did. It was a guess. Positive affirmations can be hugely positive, but Julie Smith, who we saw before in the video, she's got a bit of a slightly different take. And when it comes to those that maybe already have a decent degree of self-confidence or have good belief in themselves, positive affirmations are known to have a good, small, positive impact on our day. But for those of us that really lack self-confidence and those of us that experience quite low self-esteem, actually we can experience something quite different, because positive affirmations that really use that outside voice can often battle the inside voice that's taking place as well. And sometimes that can create this internal dichotomy whereby the internal voice is then trying to evidence why the positive affirmation doesn't actually really apply or why it doesn't actually exist. And then that turns into a spiral. And I can see some nods in the room that this has happened for a number of you. And all of a sudden, you spend your time believing the inner voice and not the outside one. So I want to share with you a technique that's called the perfect nurturer, and I can't remember the two people that designed it, but we'll put it in some kind of notes afterwards so that we can make sure we attribute the work to them. But when you feel that way, I want you to imagine the person that you feel that you can trust, that is a great supporter, that's a really good mentor. This person doesn't have to be real. It can be if you want them to be. It might be a family member, it might be your mentor, it might be your therapist. It doesn't have to be a real person. All you need to do is imagine that person. And then I want you to imagine sharing your concerns, your fears, the challenges that you are facing, what you want to achieve, what you would like to overcome with that person. And then the next stage, I want you to start writing down what you think they would say, how you think they would say it, the questions that they would ask you, the support that they would give you. And what that starts to do is it starts to retrain your inner voice to start talking with more compassion and more kindness, because actually our voice, even the inside one, really matters, and it really, really does count towards how we feel and how we go into new situations. So by trying to retrain that voice, we can become our own coach inside rather than feeling reliant on external validation. Again, this is just one of those tools that if all you've got is the notes on your phone or the back of a fag packet, we can start to write these things down, and we can definitely make some kind of positive contribution to this inside voice that's taking place.
Yeah, I really think it's helpful to say it out loud as well. So voice notes can be really helpful here, because when you say it out loud, you can start to really rationalize it as well. Okay, one more to share then. This is a simple one. It's the confidence criteria checklist. So it's about getting a piece of paper, folding it in two, thinking about a situation or scenario that scares you, and then writing down your confidence criteria. So you start with these two provocations. I destroy my confidence when, I build my confidence when. And you build your checklist, and then that helps you build the rituals and the routine and the preparation that will help you step into your confidence. So, for example, when I was thinking about tonight, I know that I would destroy my confidence if I was unclear on what Elevate wanted, what the expectation is, if I'm underprepared, if I'm stretched too thin, if I don't care about the topic, if I'm intimidated by the energy in the room, like I'm really sensitive, I feel energy, and that will just throw me off kilter. I have that fear of judgment I talked about earlier. I don't feel supported by my peers. I've already made a mistake. I'm hormonal, definitely ticking that one tonight. And I put people on a pedestal. So I know that all of these things will kill my confidence. And I have that self-awareness to know that. So I've built my confidence criteria here, which is I need to feel encouraged and supported. I'm super clear on the expectation. I have appropriate time and resource. I know that I can add value. I can ask the stupid questions. I'm respected. I familiarise myself with the people in the environment. Shout out to Ali over there. You really helped me feel relaxed and confident today. We had a really nice chat before I came on stage, and just meeting one stranger and having that conversation really helped me. And I trust the people on my team. I don't like to do presentations on my own, and having Nic to support me is a really big part of my confidence criteria. So thank you for having my back.
You feel very warm and fuzzy today.
So this is just a really simple one. Like if you're going into a situation and feeling unsure, just check in on what's going to kill or build your confidence. Definitely something you could do with your mentors. And if you line manage people, make sure you're clear on what their confidence criteria is, because every person on your team will have a different confidence criteria. And it's amazing when you do this with different people, how different their criteria would look.
So we've specifically chosen these different frameworks and tools today because they are easy to use, easy to apply, and quite quick to do. I get how time poor we all are in this industry. It feels like it's a challenge to get through the day. To get through a bank holiday week is even more challenging, as we've realized today prepping for this presentation. So I get how time poor we are. However, it feels often that our own self-development is the thing that features so low on the list. It's the thing that we don't prioritize time for. If we think about some of the kind of more like sporting analogies that we may have mentioned earlier, and we think about if we are trying to get ourselves ready for, I don't know, the big ski slope or the 100 meters, we are concentrating on practice. We're getting our bodies in shape, we're warming them up, we're thinking about what we're eating, we're thinking about how we're sleeping, and it's not difficult for us to imagine the preparation that needs to go into making ourselves our very best selves. When it comes to us, we're struggling to prioritize that time. And this is what is so great about the Elevate community, is that is exactly what we are trying to create. We are trying to create the conditions to have those conversations and give you tools that are easy to bring into the bank so that you can work on those different areas. So I hope that you have found some of those useful. We would love for you to just give some time and consideration as to whether any of those tools would actually help the original challenge that you guys put on the table. We're not going to ask you to discuss it just now because I know we're running out of time and I'm sure everybody fancies a drink, but we hope that they will be really, really useful. And if you're not doing it for your own self-development, just know one thing: confidence is contagious. The neuroscientists say it, so does Google and so does ChatGPT, so it's fact.
Verified.
So verified. But we know this to be true. We mimic and we mirror the people that we are really, really attracted to. And I mean, we know it ourselves. There are people in our lives that you just love spending time with because they exude that confidence and it catches on. So if you can't find the time to do it just for you, find the time to do it for everybody that's around you. That's your friends, that's your family, that's the people that you work with. Because I'm telling you now, it'll make a big, fat difference.
Yeah, we were talking about who our confidence crush is, and I came out with a celebrity. Mine is Beyonce. I know, isn't it crazy? I channel my inner Beyonce when I want to feel more confident. I whack up some loud music and just get in the zone. Nic, who was it for you?
So I really thought about this. I want to think of a real person, and she's not here today, but usually would be. But I said Mel. I feel like Mel is just one of those people that you can't be in a bad mood around because she just gives off that like lovely, calm, confident energy. So yeah, she is my confidence muse.
So that's it, people. Hopefully you're feeling...
Oh, and Max. And Max! Woo! And of course, Max.
Okay, maybe So just a little poll, and this is not a coaching question, this is a very closed question. Hands up if you're feeling just a tiny bit more confident or like you have some tools that you can take away. I think for people on the podcast, that's pretty unanimous, which is lovely. We're going to leave you there. We hope you take the conversation into the bar. We've got plenty of time to hang around, answer questions, anything you want to dive deeper into, but we'd love to spend some time with you and see what resonated, what landed, and see if we can support or help you in any other way.
This project is powered by our partners Cvent, Jack Morton, Live Union, Powwow, PSP, the production department, and We Are Collider. Our training partner is Matt Bolton-Alarcón from Special Source Training, and our people and culture partners are Zoe Tuffs from Times 10 Coaching and people and culture strategy consultant Nic Neal. And our venue partner is Protein Studios. Our sound engineer is Matteo Magrelio, and our producer is me, Peter Kerwood. Together we're changing lives, careers, and the events industry for the better.